This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Do you play FanDuel and feel like you aren't creating consistent money-making lineups? Go over to the DFS Doctors on Twitter at the DFS Doctors and DM them with promo code Detroit Sports to get a free trial for their analytically formulated 70% lifetime profit rate NFL and NBA lineups. The whole purpose of playing daily fantasy sports is to get out there and compete and give yourself a chance to win. So go over to the DFS Doctors. Let them help you. They have analysts on staff that look at the best optimal lineup that you can put out there to win money. So why not take advantage? At the DFS Doctors, promo code Detroit Sports.
CBD is a game changer sweeping the nation. This hemp extract is the natural way to elevate your mood, eliminate aches and pains, reduce anxiety, and keep you sleeping all night long. It can even cut your workout recovery time in half. Get in the game today with 20% off all orders of CBD and lavender products from Lavender Lane, a lavender farm located right here in Milan, Michigan. Just go to lavenderlanemi.com today and enter coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order. Guys, look, these amazing products are infused with calming lavender to maximize their effectiveness, meaning your CBD items only take minutes to take effect, which is way quicker than those pills you were about to swallow. On top of it, they are perfect for men and women. Lavender Lane has lab-tested CBD creams, tinctures, and roll-ons that are perfect for any situation, even if you're on the go. Put your health back in your hands by heading over to lavenderlanemi.com and entering coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order of CBD and lavender products. What do you have to lose? Your satisfaction is guaranteed or your money back. So if you need lavender gifts for your loved ones or just looking for the natural way to ease your discomfort with CBD, go to lavenderlanemi.com and use coupon code Detroit to unlock these miraculous benefits of CBD and lavender. That's lavenderlanemi.com. And remember, use coupon code DETROIT for 20% off your CBD and lavender products from Michigan's own Lavender Lane.
Is there a sports podcast in Detroit that people are talking about?
Hey, everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Balling over there, kind of figuring out that you've been spending some money lately. Look at you. I'm very proud of you. You've grown up a little bit now. You've moved out, and you live on your own. And from the tea leaves and reading what I hear, I have sources that tell me you got a fat-ass TV sitting there at your new crib. Congratulations, bro.
I like how you have sources.
I do. Some credible, some not so credible.
I don't have it yet. It'll be there on Friday.
Oh,
it's
nice.
scheduled for a Friday delivery.
All right, good. And I think,
spent way too much money, I think.
So you're nearby now, the studio, right? You're real close?
Yeah, real close.
This is perfect. This is what we need, especially now that we're recording much more, and there's so much happening now in the world of Detroit sports. It's a time of transition with the Pistons, Wings, now the Detroit Lions as well. So this is awesome. So, cuz, being that I'm a state guy, the last 48 hours have been crazy, especially knowing that, the Spartans got dissed by their number one choice, Luke Fickell. Everybody's upset at the Board of Trustees for what they're saying and how the whole process works. I've never read so much about a guy named Bill Beekman in my life. And then,
It looks like Wojo, right?
Yes. That was good. A lot of people like that. People are like, God, who's behind? Who's that moron behind the Detroit Sports Podcast? But that was close. You saw that? He did look like him, though, didn't he?
Yes. Wojo smells like sadness and gin, though. Bill Beekman just smells like sadness.
But he turned it around.
Did he? Did he?
Michigan State, for those that don't know, they got their guy.
I want to know how you feel about this because it had to have been ebbs and flows, right? Like, oh, you're down in the dumps, and then next thing you know, you're like, well, I don't know if we're at the highest of highs here, but...
Go back and listen to this week's Motor City Sports Rant on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. you will listen to two guys that support the Spartans sound the saddest that they have ever sounded. We basically buried the Spartans and we're like, we're never going to win again. We got to go with Mike Tressel. This is never going to be successful. What's going on? And then 24 hours later, I woke up on Wednesday and I'm kind of just waking up a little bit. Usually I check Twitter, and the first thing is the first couple alerts were the Spartans have selected and they have their guy, Mel Tucker, which, to be quite honest, I heard the name just in the search that it was going to be Luke Fickell, Narduzzi, Sala, Mel Tucker. He passed. I'm like, okay, who the hell is Mel Tucker?
So here's the thing, right? So I was up last night when all this was starting to break, right? And I was laying in bed, and all of a sudden my watch just starts going off because I have it synced to my telephone. So I'm getting all the notifications coming to my phone. They're going to my watch. My phone or my watch is lit up. It's like the only thing I can kind of see in the room is just the indiglow from my watch. And I'm like, who the hell is Mel Tucker? Like, I'm laying there in bed. I'm like, cool. Spartans have their coach, Mel Tucker. I'm like, who's this guy? Then you do a little bit of research, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. He coached at Colorado last year. He was 5-7. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I'm not gonna tell you how you should feel, but if I was in your shoes, I don't really know if I would be sold on this cat or not. If it was Narduzzi, for sure, right? Narduzzi, I think, number one. Fickell, cool, right? I get it, because he's done some good things at Cincinnati. If you got Sala, if he decided to come back to Michigan State, because remember, he was part of that staff at a time. What was it, under, what's his nuts? The guy who slapped himself in the head a lot.
John L. Smith.
Yeah. So I think he was part of that staff. If it was Sala, yeah, great, because he's had success in the NFL. Doesn't mean it's going to translate. Look at Jim Harbaugh. Had success in the NFL. Really hasn't translated for Michigan fans. But Mel Tucker, huh? Mel Tucker.
Okay, here we go.
Like, make me feel good about this. Like, come on, put the spin machine on and make me feel good about this, because I'm looking at this guy.
The rumor mill has it
I just don't see it.
Once Fickell turned him down, there's been a constant discussion with Nick Saban, and he threw Mel Tucker's name in the ring, and people have quite the high level of respect for his recruiting. Mm-hmm. This is somebody that's been on national championship teams with Nick Saban, has coached actually with D'Antonio when D'Antonio was the DC with or was a defensive coach at Ohio State. So there's situations that have arisen that have made it so that Mel Tucker's name is somewhat synonymous with decent defensive coaching, recruiting, and basically he's the hot name. Now, here's the big problem that people have. Nobody knows who he is, and he's only coached 1 year.
Let me ask you this.
In college football.
Is this getting the guy before he's the guy?
Exactly.
Is that what this is?
They spent a lot of money, and those that are not happy with this pick can have this argument, and I would definitely co-sign it. Michigan State backed the Brinks truck up for a guy that only had 1 year coaching experience, and he only went, I think he went 5-7 this year, so he only had 5 wins at Colorado, but people definitely raved, and they look beyond that because it's the first year. Most people get a pass their first year.
But why not do that for Fickell? Why not give Fickell more?
Well, at the end of the day, that's the problem. That's where people are going to, when they start researching how this went down, did the Spartans lowball Fickell? And then they realize, oh, shoot, we can't just get the guy that we wanted for $4 million, that we now got to double back. I think everything happens along the way as a result of certain things happening. So Fickell turns them down. People realize, wow, you know what? We can't just go out there and be on the cheap. If we offered Fickell 4.2, we got to now offer 5. Or Mel Tucker played this perfectly. He said no the first time. They come back and say, look, what's it going to take? He's like, I want this. And then they say, you know what? We got to do it. And so, it doesn't take that long for negotiations to take place when you say, okay, what do you need to come? You say, I need money for assistance. I need money for strength and conditioning. I need this kind of stuff. And I need this number. You go back and, a couple hours later, you have the discussion. You can make that deal in a day.
For sure. And I get that. But at that point, aren't you, as a Michigan State fan and as a Michigan State graduate, aren't you looking at your athletic director in Bill Beekman? Aren't you looking at your board of trustees who are very vocal through this entire process, probably a hindrance to the process, and just kind of saying, how the hell do you guys F this up? Like, you guys screwed this up royally. And honestly, I believe all of this is Mark D'Antonio's fault. I think Mark D'Antonio really put Michigan State football, put Michigan State, the university, and put a guy like Bill Beekman, who seemed like he was in over his head from day one, and the board of trustees all in a bad spot by basically backing out on his team, backing out on his contract, and leaving everybody high and dry the day before National Signing Day.
But looking at it from this angle, They got their
After collecting a check for longevity.
They got their second best choice. Okay, if they didn't get Luke Fickell, then they wanted somebody that definitely understands defense, somebody that can win recruiting battles. So when you look at what Mel Tucker brings to the table, I think it's a fair hire. Did they overpay for him? Yes. I would have liked probably in the neighborhood of $4.5 million, but you more than doubled his salary, and you had to overdo it. You had to spend. You had to go out there and say, hey, this much money gets you here. And the way I look at it is this. At the end of the day, the finish line resulted in a hire that's okay. Now, can we sit here and really predict what's going to happen? No, the first year is going to, there's obviously going to be a struggle. You're going to transition to a new quarterback. All the recruits basically aren't ranked that high, so Tucker's got to do a decent coaching job. I could see it probably another 5-7 season, in that neighborhood, 5-6 wins, maybe 7 tops, similar to what D'Antonio was able to accomplish. But here's the thing, okay? If he's able to, recruit and go out to the likes of, Florida and Ohio and California and find all the talented individuals or find that next level of talent that can come in here and produce, then it's not a bad hire, because you got to look at it like this. Mark D'Antonio, I think, unfortunately peaked 5 years ago in 2015. That loss to Alabama took the wind out of the sails, and basically they were never able to recover. Mel Tucker's 48 years old. I think he's going to be able to kind of put a foothold in Detroit. He's already grabbed some guys from Cass Tech in terms of when you read about Mel Tucker. He's already got relationships with some of the coaches around the PSL, and he's somebody that is well respected. So now the more important thing is that there's some money and some funds invested in coaches. There's some funds invested in the strength and conditioning program. Some money's flowing into the football program. At the end of the day, in order to turn things around, you really only need a couple breaks to go your way. You got to find a quarterback. You got to find a couple assistant coaches that maybe are a little bit higher than just normal and maybe elite, and then you can get right back there and be in the mix. Now, is it going to take some time? You got to give it 2 years. The first year is a wash. The first year you get a pass. You just get out there and start, because even in year 2, the first class that you're going to bring in is just going to be basically freshmen. So and plus the money that they invested, I know they gave him what? I think it's a 3-year deal, or I think it was a short-term deal, but they gave him a bunch of money. So we'll look into that. But in terms of where I'm at with it, when this process started, when Fickell turned him down, every single piece of negative, press that could have came out, because they said that Fickell and his family weren't happy with the culture, that he turned him down. The Spartans sent a plane there, which I thought was ridiculous at the highest level in terms of the perception. Hey, you're going to fly around. That's fine. I know it's been done before, but if you're Michigan State and you want to kind of establish prestige, hey, make the candidates come to you. Don't make it so that each and every coach that you target comes out and says, no, I'm not doing it. You had Sala publicly deny him, Narduzzi, Fickell, Mel Tucker initially. So the way in which it was handled wasn't done properly in terms of PR, but at the end of the day, you got the coach. Now the process can be evaluated, and yeah, most people are assuming that leadership could be enhanced, that, the board of trustees is stupid for talking publicly and making really ridiculous comments, bashing Luke Fickell. So the way in which I look at it is the next step now for Michigan State athletics is to repair public relations and figure out how to kind of pump up the program and put out some positive spin in regards to everything that's going on. I'm happy. I'm not thrilled. I don't guarantee that, this is our Nick Saban. But at the end of the day, you got option 2 or 3 at worst, and this is somebody that has some ties to the university and can come in and get to work right away. And so for the Spartans, I think now they can turn the page and really kind of evaluate how this all went down. But for the foreseeable future, they got their coach. I think I tweeted out on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast. I think, it kind of sucks when the news breaks and you get like 3-4 dozen tweets like, who the fuck is that guy? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's the first response from a lot of people. And I'm the same way. I'm like, Mel Tucker, Colorado coach, that's basically all I knew about him. So I paid him a bunch of money, north of $5 million. Do you take any stock in the fact that he's making more, and at 48 years old will have a bigger contract than Mark D'Antonio did?
I mean, I think it's part of the lay of the land, right? And honestly, I think it's D'Antonio's own doing, right? He put Michigan State in this position where it had to go this way. Basically, you need a coach. You got shunned by your first one, and that caused a huge uproar when Fickell said no, and you probably lowballed him. And Mel Tucker knows what's going on. He's paying attention, so he's like, cool, you want me, pay me this. and I'm going to need all this for all my guys. So if D'Antonio is going to be upset about this, it's his own doing. If Michigan State fans are going to be upset at this, be upset at D'Antonio. Honestly, I feel all of this screams Mark D'Antonio's fault. Bill Beekman is a total boner jam. Like, the guy's just a boner jam for sure. Like, in over his head. This reminds me of when Dave Brandon was running Michigan. Remember how much of a mess and a cluster that was? It was absolutely horrible. Beekman at the helm of MSU athletics just reminds me of Dave Brandon just basically scrapping different traditions at Michigan just because he wanted to. It makes zero sense running it like it's a damn corporation when it's actually a public university. Like, what the hell are you doing? But no, man, I mean, good for Mel Tucker. Awesome on him. Hopefully that contract's justified if you're a Michigan State fan, right? And hopefully with what he demanded for his staff, good on him. Hopefully he can go out there and get the guys that he wants. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens as he kind of fills out his coaching roster. You know what I'm saying? Because you've got all this money. How does this now translate to wins? And I think both you and I agree this upcoming season is going to be rough for Michigan State. It's going to be very, very difficult for the Spartans to really put together a awesome season because, in my estimation, D'Antonio put them behind the 8 ball. You've got a guy coming in here who, obviously, not the first choice. You have a guy coming in here who essentially doesn't have a quarterback. Is it going to be Rocky Lombardi? I think we're all assuming it's going to be that guy. And I think in both of our estimations, Rocky Lombardi's not great. You don't really have a running game. I think this team is deep enough defensively where you can survive, right? You can build around that calling card that D'Antonio helps set up. And Mel Tucker's a defensive guy. So he has enough talent to be able to do a few different things to keep this team slightly respectable. But next year is going to be a struggle. It's what happens year 2 and year 3 with Michigan State that I think all of us have to pay attention to. And next year, you can't get too high or too low on anything because
you get a pass. Year 1, you always get a pass.
It's going to be a weird season.
Yeah.
But I think year 2 and year 3 is where we really got to kind of look at what he's doing, how his coaches are working, and how all of this is going to pay off. Honestly, it's a 2-year deal at least.
Number one thing that Michigan State's got to figure out is how leadership can take the next step forward in terms of changing the culture, making it so that the football program, basketball program, MSU athletics does things on the up and up. Number one thing, and by all accounts, Mel Tucker seems like an up and up guy, stand-up citizen, and things like that. You can't blame him for leaving. Michigan State doubled his income. Look, anybody, you tell me, hey, John, I'm going to double your income, and all you got to do is stand there and be a retailer. I'm going to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just it's the way of the world. So for the likes of Drew Pearson, who are going online and bashing Mel Tucker, Drew Pearson was not happy. His grandson got recruited by Mel Tucker and basically was told, hey, I'm staying. That's what these guys got to do. That's the game. But then Michigan State comes and says, hey, you're going to go from 2 to 5. I'm leaving.
Yeah,
it's pretty quick.
I mean, it's just funny because this was Saturday, and then now Wednesday, he's like, okay, I'm out. But so not even 5 days later.
But now you and I have to discuss this realistically because, okay, Michigan State did the right thing in terms of they secured the next coach. But being that we have room to speculate a little bit and talk, maybe could they have I know it's tough because people would have said that, hey, you would have lost a bunch of recruits if you would have just had the interim tag. I would have been actually okay. I would have been disappointed. I would have been frustrated, but I could have also been sold on if you keep Tressel for a year, then you wait and say, okay, we're going to target PJ Fleck and pay the buyout, $4.5 million. It's not 10 this year, 4.5 next year. But in discussing with people, many are like, why on earth would PJ Fleck leave that side of the division and come to the side with Michigan State? He's got it made. He can pretty much every 2 years show up in the championship game from that side because all you got to do is compete with much lesser competition, whereas Michigan State's got to go through the likes of Ohio State and Michigan every single year.
Penn State as well.
Penn State. So PJ Fleck would never, ever take that. But if you want to do it, I feel like the way in which I want to say it is, if Michigan State was able to do 5, they could have did 7 for the name in a year. You know what? Maybe you say in a year, Urban Meyer is another year removed, refreshed. Pay him 8. Pay him 6, 7, 8. Pay him, similar to what Jim Harbaugh makes if he ever signs a new deal. I'm not opposed to that either, but at the end of the day, people will say that recruits will fly left and right. I would have been okay with actually getting a higher name coach in a year.
Yeah, I think that might. I think that's probably the smarter way to
Did
have
State
done it.
jump the gun?
I mean, look, the season's lost, right? Like, if he can turn this around, good on him. But I think going into it, every Michigan State fan and probably every analyst is like, yeah, it's kind of a lost season. Why not have Tressel do it for a year, see what you got there, and plan on going after a guy like PJ Fleck? Or if Luke Fickell is still your boo, go get Luke Fickell, or whoever, Urban Meyer, go grab him. You know what I'm saying? Why not do that? If you're willing to open up the purse strings for a guy who has 1 year of head coaching experience underneath his belt, and it was a 5-7 year at Colorado, and I understand everybody's like, oh, it was successful. Cool, bro. If you're willing to do that for this guy, why not go get a more established name like a PJ Fleck who has shown you a thing or two, a guy like Urban Meyer who has won a thing or two, go out there and get a guy who was essentially your guy in Luke Fickell. Why not? Why? What's it gonna hurt? It doesn't necessarily make sense to me. Mel Tucker might be the guy, right? He might be, could be. Nobody really knows.
So here's the thing.
That's the thing. There's a lot of unknowns about this guy.
Exactly. And as a Spartan supporter, look, I'm talking as a fan here. You sit there and you talk with your boys and you're like, oh, okay, it's just Mel Tucker. That's not what I want. I want Michigan fans to be crapping their pants, being like, oh shit, they got Urban Meyer. We're about to go down. It's scary.
Yeah.
It's tough times. Now Michigan sits there and goes, dude, we got a couple year head start. We're rolling. We've been beating you guys. Yeah, we're not meeting our goals, but we're much better than Michigan State. And that's where they still sit. I don't see potentially that Mel Tucker in year one at home is going to defeat Michigan.
Do you think Mel Tucker and I know this is hard to project and predict, but Mel Tucker year 3, year 4, do you think he is, we'll say competing and maybe winning year 3 or year 4?
It's going to depend on the stars, man. Like anything else, you got to go out there and you got to win some recruiting battles.
It's probably an unfair question to ask.
No, but here's the thing. The way in which the program at Michigan State has gone, there's been some times where the program has risen up. I mean, Mark D'Antonio got that program to elite status. He got him to the precipice of ultimate success. Now, he wasn't able to sustain it, and the way in which he went out was kind of tough, and we'll talk about that here in a few seconds. But I think Tucker's going to have every opportunity to make it or fall on his face at Michigan State. So I'm definitely looking forward to supporting him. You also, I know it's not a big deal to me, but you have a minority coach, so you're going to have more support among a certain faction of supporters and the population. So that's fine too. I look at it and I say, please have passion and fire.
You wanted a different minority.
I definitely wanted
hummus.
I wanted hummus.
And you wanted tabbouleh.
I wanted hummus and tabbouleh. They went out and got something else. So it's fine. It's not a problem at all on that sense, but I think it helps. No doubt, because look at the name that the players were supporting, Harlan Barnett. Maybe he'll come back as the defensive coordinator. So you can't discount that. But for me, I just want a football coach that restores respectability and some wins. Just big-time wins. At the end of the day, name of the game is wins. But see, for me, I'm having a hard time believing that Mark D'Antonio left this way because, I was thinking about it this morning. If the report and the tweet that Rico Beard sent out was true, that the administration went behind D'Antonio's back, it leaves me conflicted because I can understand that they're saying, hey, you didn't change your coaches. You're unwilling to change your coaches. You're now being somewhat of a malcontent, disgruntled employee. We have to go behind your back and look for someone else. And that potentially upset D'Antonio and he abruptly quits.
Well, here's the thing, too.
I just have a hard time finding that way because if you love Michigan State and you're still going to draw $1 million check, are you then going to take actions that intentionally screw the university? Now, yes, could he be upset? Yeah, but I don't see him just intentionally going out there and saying, you know what, I'm going to quit. I think he really was torn. He wanted to, in his mind, go out there and execute recruiting. But at the end of the day, you're 64 years old. There are days he woke up and probably was like, I just don't feel it anymore. Mm-hmm. He got the check, and I'm sure the check was nice. But once he got it, he probably was like, that really didn't help motivate him. Now, if you could have offered him $6 million if he stayed in 2020, he would have probably coached. Mm-hmm. So I just don't see the degree of Mark D'Antonio's disdain for the university going to the point where he's like, I was going to coach, and then all of a sudden, he just abruptly quits, because that's really directly conflicts the reports that said that he was discussing with Beekman for weeks, that he was just kind of torn back and forth, that he just wasn't sure he wanted to do it. And I think it was just a power move on his part. He was saying that so that he could collect his $4 million and then really walk away, kind of knowing that maybe he was 60% out the door anyway. But I don't see him being disgruntled. I just can't see that play being made where you're like, yeah, I'm coaching, I'm down for the cause. Oh, you went behind my back, I'm out. And then you still work for the university and are considered someone that's going to have input and make $1 million. Because at the end of the day, if that's what he did, I'm just like, we're going to fire you. We're not going to keep you that $1 million and sue us.
See, I see it a little bit different than you do. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop here.
Like the scandal, like he was forced?
Yeah.
Like the bad stuff that he did?
Yeah. I'm waiting. If you've noticed, the last couple of years surrounding Michigan State football,
It wasn't great, no.
There's been a lot. There's been a lot of smoke.
So you're saying
no fire, but a lot of smoke.
You're saying potentially that there could be smoke and the administration did the right thing by forcing him out, if that's what they did.
If they did force him out, or maybe he took a preemptive move, collected his check, and was like, you know what? I can see this coming down the pipe, and I'm just going to get out. I'm just going to walk away before I really sully my name. Because, look, nothing... Prime example, Ohio State, right? Jim Tressel. Jim Tressel was a great football coach. Beat the pants off of Michigan all the time. He was fantastic. But when you say Jim Tressel, what do you think of? You think of the scandal with Terrell Pryor. You think of all kinds of other red flags that happened.
Shoegate?
It was the little yellow or the little maize shoes that they got, or the little pins that they got, the tattoos too. You had a car scandal. I mean, like, look, just off the top of my head, I just named 3 different scandals with the guy. But before all that came out, he was considered a great football coach. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, he brought fear to Michigan fans. And I think maybe D'Antonio realized there might be the chance for that. So why ruin MSU's name and why really hurt my legacy? Let me just get out now. Because if he leaves now and all this comes out, there's not a whole lot you can really do. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what are you going to do? He's not coaching anymore. He's kind of out of the spotlight, out of the limelight. What are you going to do to MSU? I don't really know if there's anything you can really do to MSU with him being gone, with him being removed from the situation. I'm sure the NCAA could come in and slap you on the wrist a little bit, maybe fine you for something, but I just don't see it hurting as bad. So I think this was a move to protect his integrity and protect his name, as well as protecting the university.
Well, the brain trust at Michigan State, they got it right. They got their second best option, and now we're tasked with seeing...
I like how you said they got it right.
They got a guy.
And they got their number 2.
Hey, you can't make, like they say, you can't make someone take the job. They targeted him. They flew their plane to go get him, and they just unfortunately didn't make the offer at the time that they felt like they wanted to make. And sometimes in business, that's what you do. You don't start with like, hey, we're going to offer you $6 million. You say, okay, make us a counter offer. Maybe just Fickle just wasn't willing to counter. And plus, it was going to be tough. I think that, looking at it from the other side, maybe D'Antonio got word of it and said, look, he's interested, but not that much. So just make him a decent offer and let's keep it moving. So I look at it and I can't wait to see the reporting on how this actually all played out. Can't wait to hear how Mel Tucker sounds in his first initial presser, and he's got to win the room and he's got a big job to do. But as a Spartan supporter, I graded a B+. Not an A, not a C, B+, and we're on the path now to redemption. Go out there, get some talented individuals, and let's compete in this division, and let's see if the best would be if Tucker gets to Indianapolis before Harbaugh. Then we can just sit here and just go, we've had 2 coaches now get to the promised land where you guys can't even get to 1.
Dude, if that happens.
That'd be the best. All right, let's take our first time out. We're going to come back and we're going to visit the Lions making news. And real quick, we'll give our take on the Pistons who are finally rebuilding. Just give a quick take on them. You're listening to Doc and Jock, episode 341 on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. The reason why we're able to broadcast each and every day is because we have great sponsors, and we're able to keep the studio lights on, the microphones hot, upgrade our gear, because great sponsors want to work with the Detroit Sports Podcast. So please support those who support this project. And the 2 sponsors of this week's episode are the Motor City Pawnbrokers and the Flick Chat application. The Motor City Pawnbrokers are the one-stop pawn shop when you're looking for quality, brand name new, and pre-owned merchandise, with locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren. Their mission is to deliver exceptional value. Today, head on over and check out MotorCityPawnbrokers.com for all the great deals. That's pawnbrokers.com. And if you're near any of the locations, head on in and tell the crew, tell Mark that the Detroit Sports Podcast Network sent you. If you've agreed or disagreed with anything that you've heard in the opening segment, if you think that Mel Tucker is a disgrace, if you think that he's a no-name coach that's going to sink the program to levels similar to bad coaches like Bobby Williams and John L. Smith, or you think he's going to be legendary, let us know. Head on over to the Flick Chat application and let's debate it. What is Flick, you ask? It's a great spot to debate Detroit sports. It's where all the hosts go. You can listen to your favorite podcasts. All you got to do is go to your favorite app store, whether it be Google Play or the Apple Store, download Flick Chat, and within moments, you're in Detroit sports' newest headquarters where you can create your own topic. You can debate. We watch professional wrestling. We watch all the live sporting events, and we can chat with as many people in the group as possible. You can control your own forum. If you're a fan of a certain player, you can create a forum. It's real fun, real simple, so don't miss out on Detroit sports' newest headquarters. Download today, Flick Chat. Get in the mix. Don't miss out. Because it was just like a minute ago, we were talking about the Underwear Olympics, and here they are again, approaching in a week or so, and I can't believe how important this combine is for the Detroit Lions. There's so much happening, and because the best part of now being in the mix is that SI Lions Maven is getting replied to from NFL athletes. People are reading it. They're checking out our podcast. They're engaging. They're messaging. They're sending the GIFs and the funny memes. So we're in the mix, and we continue to be, heading into this new decade, part of the Detroit sports scene, and it's so fun. So what happened, you ask? Well, Darius Slay helped SI Lions Maven and the podcast make some news. So what happened? Well, like a great producer would do, you kind of send out ideas and you see what people are talking about and what people want to debate. That's the job of a great producer. So I was talking to one of the writers and I said, I think what people are talking about is how much is Darius Slay worth? So one of the writers at SI Lions Maven did a great job, and he put out a number, and he said, just based on the contract that others have made, that the fair contract would be, right just below the top dollar. I think top dollar is $15.1 million. The Lions should offer Darius Slay 3 years, $15 million per season, and Darius Slay caught wind of it because those iconic letters showed up, and he said, no. He replied. He said, that's too low. $15 million a year at 29, 30 years old is too low. Well, of course, what do? I jump on that, and I'm like, Darius Slay wants to be the highest paid NFL cornerback, and that blows up, and now the debate has been raging on the radio and all over. Well, where did that come from? You know where it came from, the shit stirrer of all time. Me. That's where it came from, and I think it's great because that's the legitimate talk that we got to have in Detroit. How much does Darius Slay want? What's it going to take to keep him? And hell no, I'm not dropping $15 million on Darius Slay. The best thing, though, somebody, a supporter of ours, which led to a 2-day discussion. I literally read like 200 messages intended for somebody else through us. Some guy offered $8 million a year, which just set him on fire. He replied to that as well. He's like, I'm definitely leaving if they offer that. So it's good because we get in the mix and others get in, and then we're in the mix. So it's all good on that front. Honestly, cuz Darius Slay wants to be the highest paid. I understand that position. That will never be offered. I cannot see it unless it's a 1-year deal, $16 million, and that's it. I could see that. But if you just look at the Patriot way, they don't do that. They've let guys, the Patriots have let guys that are far more successful than Darius Slay walk, and they don't do that. Yeah, they want cornerbacks. They value them, but they don't pay them. So I can't see Darius Slay maxing out on the Detroit Lions. He wants it, and I'll say this. If that's what you want, going out publicly tweeting a podcast network and SI.com, that's not going to really get you where you need to go. Well, I love it. You help my business. I really appreciate it. But that's not how you want to do it. Handle it behind the scenes. Be professional. It's pretty much a given that every player in contract negotiations wants top dollar. In his position, it's pretty much assumed he's going to want to start at 15.2. But, his boy, Quandre Diggs, was dropping numbers like $17 million per year. And he's like, yeah, I'm down for that. But Bob Quinn's never going to offer it. So I'm seeing potentially if the Lions and Bob Quinn, their move from their position, let him ride it out. You let him play this year under the current deal. He sits out for whatever period of time. He's not going to sit out the entire year. You don't pay Darius Slay $15 million and be successful. You can draft Okudah and move on, get a second-round pick for Slay. I'm okay with it. I just don't see that level of production. For me, 2 years, $28 million, fully guaranteed. Take your 14, you're in the mix. Nothing more than $14 million is my number.
So here's the deal. He's going to be 29 next year.
Wants to get paid.
He roughly makes, 12.75-ish. So he wants a bit of a raise. This is the thing. Cornerbacks, and it's been proven, cornerbacks tend to go downhill after the age of 30.
Quick.
So if you want to get 15 mil or you want more than 15 mil next year, I get that. Your contract, though, will not, if you're going to stay in Detroit, your contract will not be and will not average $15 million a year. It just won't. There's no way it can. It just can't happen because it's not smart business. And if Bob Quinn does this, he should be shown the door immediately. It just does not make sense. After the age of 30, cornerbacks, their game starts to slip. And you could make the argument that you've seen signs of it this year with Darius Slay at the age of 28 and 29. I understand you want to get paid. If you wanted to get paid something like this, you probably should have got paid something like this your contract prior. This is why you were threatening to hold out this year. This is why you were threatening to sit out, because you wanted more money. And I get that. I understand that. You want a bit of a raise. You feel like everything you've done over the last couple seasons warrants it. Totally understand, bro. I get it. Just not here. Just not for $15-16 million for a cornerback who is entering the downside of his career. Doesn't make sense. It's not smart business. Okay? Darius Slay, I've been on this podcast numerous times. I used to host a radio show here in Detroit. Darius Slay is a top 5, top 10 cornerback in the league. The guy's a stud. That being said, you still cannot financially be responsible and pay him north of $15 million. It just doesn't work that way. If you wanted to structure some type of contract where he ends up getting 3, maybe 4 years, and the first year or two is set somewhere between $16-17 million, I get that. But there's got to be a huge taper after that. It's got to come down somewhere around the area of $14, maybe $13 million a season for those final 2 years. And if I'm the Lions, I want a team option for that 4th year. I don't want to give him the player option. You look at all these basketball contracts, everybody's got player options. Andre Drummond has a player option. That's why it was so hard to trade his ass. Okay? I don't want that for a guy like Darius Slay, especially since at times he seems like a malcontent in that locker room. So if you're the Lions and you're going to roll with Bob Quinn and you're going to roll with Matty P, and these are going to be your dudes who are handling everything up top, do you really want Darius Slay here? Especially since he questions everything, and there's a reason why Quandre Diggs was moved out, because he questioned everything.
Slay for a second rounder. You make that move?
I don't think you do.
Immediately. You say, okay, you get a second rounder from anybody.
Wait.
1 second round pick for Darius Slay. Yes or no?
Man, that is tough. That is tough because I feel like he could get you a first round pick late in the draft. Can I ask where it would be? If it's top of the second round, I would take it. Yeah, if it's top of the second round, I'd take it. If it's late, probably not. I'll probably go into the season with whatever he's got going on, and I'll try to trade him at some point during the season.
Okay, I think it's fair. Darius, one thing I'll say about him, definitly open-minded.
I love the guy. I love him. I think he's great.
He's great for business. One of the rare guys that just doesn't care. He's like, I'm rich. I'm producing on the field to the level where I feel like I can speak, and he's a great personality. And look, he's a guy that's a staple in the community. He deserves it in terms of like being a good guy, but this is business. This is the NFL.
If we could do a weekly check-in with Darius Slay, I would love to.
Exactly.
And like we could spin a little side program, like what did Darius Slay say here? Because sometimes his southern accent kicks in and he starts talking craziness. And you're just like, what the fuck is going on?
Exactly.
I love Darius Slay though.
So the funny part of this time of year is you and I joke around and we're like, has anybody paid attention to the Lions' history ever?
Ever? Because
we're starting to see like reports from national media that they believe the Lions could be the next 49ers. You have the Free Press re-airing Dan Orlovsky's interview where he believes that the Lions are 2 teams, where Dan Orlovsky says that the Lions are 2 players away, 2 good players away.
Really good players.
Yeah, from being...
Well, what does really good mean?
Yeah.
Like elite?
The best response to that I got, and if you go to the Free Press when they announced their article, the best was the Lions are 2 players away from having 2 good players. So it's one of those things where hope season is understandable. I wrote one. I can be honest. I wrote where some reasons why I think the Lions could win the division and things like that. You have to be a little bit positive, but at the end of the day, it's hard to really sell that to a lot of people because anytime you write anything positive, the wave of negativity you get, you have to have some hope. But I just think that specifically, not the hope factor, but I think that Dan Orlovsky is way underestimating how many players the Lions need. So that, and I think our supporters are fair. The people that read my article, they said, it's not 2 players away.
Mm-hmm.
The Lions are realistically cause 8 players away. And I think that's where the notion comes in that I think people realize that Dan Orlovsky loves the Lions. He got nice checks from them. He continues to work with them.
He loves Matt Stafford.
He loves Matt Stafford. So it's no secret that, not that he's not objective, but he's going to slant toward positive. And if you look at the film, they're not. You could say legitimately they're 5 players away. And here's the thing. If they're 2 players away, they're potentially going to lose 2 players. So that's a wash. If they lose Glasgow and Slay, it's a wash. Mm-hmm. So you can't say that. They're legitimately 8 players away and a draft, maybe even needing that to get to the playoffs, cuz. Yeah. So I just think it's a little bit disingenuous, and seeing that, it just makes it hard to really listen to what he says. He's great outside of talking about the Lions. Mm-hmm. So that's how I viewed it. And I wrote nice things about him, that he's worked hard to become a great analyst.
I think he's a very good analyst.
Great analyst. I just don't take anything he says about the Lions with anything more than just, hey, this is a shill.
I mean, let's work through this, right? Let's just look at the defensive side of the ball. We need a linebacker. You probably need a second corner because there's no guarantee that Darius Slay will be back after next season. So that's just going into next season. You need a second corner. After that, you're going to need another corner. I think your safety position's okay, but already on defense, you need at least 2 positions, possibly 3 if Slay goes, okay? Not even addressing the defensive line and some of the help you might need there. Now let's flip the script and go to the other side of the ball. You talked about your center possibly leaving, or your center/guard combo in Graham Glasgow possibly leaving, so there's a position. I think your left tackle isn't very good. Taylor Decker hasn't been very good since his rookie year. Probably should be slid over to your right tackle. So now we're looking at a left tackle. All right, so now that's 2 players on the offensive line. Let's go into that backfield. We're gonna keep Matt Stafford because I don't know. I actually read an article the other day where it went through and it ranked all, I think it was like 54 quarterbacks that played last year. Matt Stafford ended in the top 10. He was number 8. I think that was legitimate. It only graded him on half of a season, but I think it was legitimate. I think Matt Stafford played excellent last year. So we're going to keep Stafford. We're not going to get rid of him. So you don't need a quarterback, but I don't believe in your run game because your running back that you drafted can't stay healthy. And I don't know what you got with Bo Scarborough, and I don't know what you got as in any of the other bodies that you got back there. So now you need a running back. So now we're at 3 players offensively. Now let's look at the wide receivers. You got Kenny Golladay, check. I'm assuming Marvin Jones is coming back, check. But you need a 3rd wide receiver. You don't have one. And if you get a really good one, it really changes your offense. So I'm going to say you need one there. So now wait, that's 4 players on the offensive side of the ball.
All right. You neglected, yeah, exactly.
Tight end, I think you're okay with Hockenson if he can stay healthy. Again, wait and see approach there. But after Hockenson, what do you really got? You got a couple guys. I think Jesse James was underutilized. So I'm going to say tight end, you're okay. But offensively, you need at least 4. Defensively, you need 2 for next season, possibly 3. So like you said 8 players. I think you're pretty spot on with 8 guys.
Or a dozen.
I came up with 7 off the top of my head.
You can't say that. You just can't say that because of the fact that, look, I know many people want to shine the light that the Lions were in a lot of games, but that's the NFL. Unless you're the god-awful program and can't coach, every game's close. It's in those close games, can you step it up? And in 2020, they better. Otherwise, they're going to be showing the door. Now, before we get out of here, definitely we're going to table a little bit of discussion regarding the Lions draft, probably for a week. Let's let some more mock drafts come out. Let's look at some potential situations before we look at if the Lions are going to trade up or down. We'll table that for the coming weeks. But you found a mock draft that you definitely enjoyed from CBS Sports. Hit us with what you found, and let's debate it real quick before we get out of here on this edition of Doc and Jock.
Okay, so this is a 3-round mock draft.
3-rounder, those are the best ones for me.
Yeah,
I can't follow 7-round mock drafts this early.
Yeah. And this is by RJ White.
Okay.
I think it gets really interesting in the second round, and I think that's where the debate's going to come, and I think we're both going to have a good laugh at what he has for round 3.
Okay.
All right. So number one, Joe Burrow goes number one overall to the
Universally
Bengals.
still, yep.
Yes. Chase Young goes number 2 to Washington. So your Lions draft Derek Brown, which I think you're a fan
Ooh,
of.
yeah, not bad.
Okay. So then in the second round, they come back and they draft Bryce Hall out of Virginia. He's a cornerback. The way they have him ranked on CBS, 27th prospect overall. He's 5th in his position. It says the Lions signaled their willingness to jump on this type of zone first corner when they signed Justin Coleman last year. And Hall looks like a long-term starter in the league if he can find the right scheme fit. So that being said, that doesn't necessarily make me feel very high on him because he's going to be a scheme guy, and it sounds like you already have that, and you basically paid him a fortune last year with Justin Coleman.
And if you're going to go corner that high, you got to go Okudah.
Yeah.
Have to. He's the guy.
So here's the deal. What is available in the second round that you pass on to draft that cornerback is a guy like J.K. Dobbins and a guy like, where is it at here? Jonathan Taylor. So you already know my love for Jonathan Taylor. They have Jonathan Taylor going at pick 24 in the second round. I think Jonathan Taylor's there in the second round. If you don't take him, that's an indictment on this organization. Okay? Just the way I feel. If J.K. Dobbins is there and you don't take him, that's an indictment on this organization. If you take a guy who is the 5th best corner over a running back who is either the 2nd or the 3rd best, and you need running back help, that's an indictment on this organization.
Yes.
All right. Now, what I find to be hilarious is what they do in round 3. And that's going to be, if you're a Michigan fan, you know this guy. It's going to be Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Boo!
So they draft Donovan Peoples-Jones in the
to drop more
round.
balls in the NFL?
Yeah.
To not make any plays?
So it says the Lions have 2 studs at receiver, but depth behind the pair has been a problem. Plus, Marvin Jones is set to hit free agency after 2020. Peoples-Jones wasn't able to reach his ceiling in the Michigan offense, but he is capable of
with the
making an
Lions.
early impact.
He will grow and develop with the Lions. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
He'll grow. He wasn't able to perform at Michigan, but he's going to grow and develop under Darrell Bevel. Look, you got better options there. I'm thumbs way down. Look, I don't think you target offense until round 4. Minimum. It's defense, or defense, offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Or, we'll talk in future episodes of Doc and Jock. Maybe it's trade and get 2 first-rounders and take defense, quarterback, then defense, then offense.
I like where your head's at.
All right, great episode, cuz. Always good to talk sports with you. Great to have you nearby so that we can record a lot more easily, and it's a good time. Follow Adam on Twitter at...
Wait, hold up real quick. We did mention the Pistons. Real quick.
Yes.
Thoughts before we get out of here on the Pistons rebuild.
Finally, 100 episodes ago, we talked about the fact that Pistons should rebuild. Now they decide to do it. Way too late. You sold Andre Drummond for peanuts.
Yep.
How disrespectful to him. He was worth more than a second rounder, but at the end of the day, sometimes a decision needed to be made. Andre gone, signals the rebuild. All is good in my book. I now pay attention. I was not paying attention. Now buy out Reggie. Let's start this rebuild. A little bit concerned, and I want to pay attention in the coming weeks. Sekou is getting some little bit of criticism from the head coach there. Mm-hmm. Dwayne Casey's not happy with Sekou, so that's not good. But at this point in time, tank, lose, many ping pong balls as you can, man. Year 1 of a rebuild. No, not even year 1. Day 14 of a rebuild, cuz when we've been screaming about this for over 700 days.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
I want as much draft capital as you can get. So trade everybody you can trade.
All gone.
Start
Be
over.
gone.
Have a different vision for this team and rebuild it. I'm happy Drummond's gone. Look, I liked Andre, but he's a dinosaur in this league. The game has changed. You need to change. I'm good on it.
Yeah, we'll definitely look at the Pistons and Wings in the coming weeks as well as we talk about the Lions in this offseason, the Combine. Great time to be podcasting. Everyone's doing it. It's a great time. New networks are starting up, and I just sit back and kick my feet up, and you and I are like dinosaurs doing this, but it's been fun. Doc and Jock will continue each and every Thursday. Find it anywhere your favorite podcast is located. Look for the Detroit Sports Podcast, the leaders and best. As always, right? Hail.
That's right.
Hail the podcast. Hail. See y'all next week.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me. They talk to me.